Today we are going to wire up our MicroBit using the T extension. We're going to have a button, a buzzer, and an LED in a circuit, but these are going to be controlled through a code, and we're going to create the code after this. But the first thing we need to do is we need to wire this up properly. So here's what we have, and I know it's not a great camera, but let me explain to you, if you want to walk through what we have going on here. So all the parts that you need will be in your kit, and I'm going to walk you through the basics of how to do the wiring here. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to take the top one here. This is hard to see, but it's plugged into the ground right below the 5 volts. So anywhere across that rail right there, we're going to take that and we're going to jumper it to the blue rail on the side over here. Okay? We are going to use those on the grounds down here, and we'll talk about this side here in a second. But we have a couple things we're plugging into the ground. So I have blue and orange to represent the positives, or the pins in this case, which is different than yesterday. But we're going to use blue for the ground, just so you can see. You can use whatever color wires you want. We're going to have the ground again coming out to the blue rail here. We are also going to plug in 3 orange wires, and one's going to be plugged into P0, one's going to be plugged into P1, and one's going to be plugged into P2. It's a little bit of a jumble right there. But go ahead and plug in 3 wires and don't connect them elsewhere yet, just have them plugged in there. Let's do the LED first. So the one that is plugged into P2, what I want to do is I want you to plug that somewhere on the bottom over here. It cannot be in the row here with the other pins from the T extension or the dragon tail. I need you to plug in your LED. The long leg needs to be in the same row as this pin, which again is plugged into P2. P2, jumper it over, plug into the same row as the long leg in the LED, and then what we need to do, the shorter leg of the LED is going to be down here. We'll plug the resistor in, bring the resistor down here to any of these rows down here, and then this side needs to be connected to the ground. So instead of, we can take this jumper. It's because we powered this rail here. Well, I shouldn't say powered. We established that this rail right here is ground. We could also take this one and we could put it over in the blue. I just simply plugged it in just to keep it on this side to one of the ground pins that are at the top. So yesterday we had power with 3.3 volts that were coming and powering all these items. In this case, what we're going to do today is we're going to send that power out pin 2. So pin 2 is going to be our positive, goes to the long leg, which is the anode of the LED. Through the LED, short leg there needs to be in the same row as the resistor, jump that over, and then we have sorry if my hand keeps getting in the way. Then we need to take this side, which is the negative side, and jump it back to a ground, either here, or you can jumper it over here, but it might be in the way. Whatever works for you. So that's our LED. Our buzzer is actually going to be probably the next easiest one to do. So our buzzer, it does have a positive side. Now, we figured this out previously, yesterday, that it's hard to see the pins underneath these. So you have to make sure that you know which pin it's plugged into when you go in here. We are going to take the pin that is in, looks like P0. So the jumper wire in P0, let's jumper that over. Let's plug it into the same row as the positive wire of your buzzer. Let's take the other side, which is the negative side of the buzzer, and we're going to make that ground. So we're just going to jumper this over to this ground rail, which we've established up here. So again, we have P0 going to the positive side. It's going to be the longer leg, but there's a plus sign on it, through the buzzer, and over here. Now, once we give power to this, that buzzer is not going to automatically turn on, nor is the light. We're going to code it because they're coming out, again, from the pins. They're not getting constant power from the 3.3 volts. We are establishing that it's going to send power out those pins. And how, once again, we are going to code it to do that is it has to read this button right here. So let's wire that up. So our last pin is going to be P1. So you should have your P1 jumper wire. Let's bring your P1 jumper wire down. I have mine in row 28, but it really depends on where you plug in your button, of course. So on mine, I have the jumper wire going into 28, and then across it is going to be one of the pins. It's hard to see, but it's underneath this button. It's on this side. Get your hand out of the way, Mr. Hale. Under here. Okay, that's connected to this one. And the other side, the other pin's going to here, and that's going to jump back to the ground. So essentially, what's happening is we are reading the value of this pin, and we're saying, hey, when we have a value or we push this button down, it's going to do that through P1. It's going to read it, and then it's going to what's called write. It's going to write, or it's going to send out. So it's going to make an output to make this buzz and make this LED blink. So once you have that done, what I need for you to do is I need for you to plug in your MicroBit to your Dragon Tail. And yesterday in the video, I plugged the power, the USB, into the side of the Dragon Tail. We can't do that today. We have to plug it into the top simply because when we plug it into the side here, it does establish power, but we need to write directly to the MicroBit. So make sure it's plugged into the top. You can slide this into here. Make sure it'll snap. Not super hard, but you can push it down. It might take a little bit of force. Oh, hang on one sec. There we go. Just like that. Go ahead and plug that into the back of your computer. And then I'm going to show you, I'm going to stop the recording here. I'm going to do a screen recording of how to code this. And then once you're done coding it and you get this thing to blink and buzz, you're going to either take a screenshot of your code or take a picture with your iPad, upload that as your exit ticket, and you are good for the day. Our MicroBit and our breadboard wired up, we need to code it. And so in Schoology, there's going to be a link to this site called Make Code. This is how you're going to code your MicroBit. So once you go to this link, you don't need to sign in. You're just going to create a new project. Here we go. Let's give the project a name. Let's call it Breadboard. You can call it whatever you want. All right. Good. And very similar to when we used Hummingbird, or if you use any style of block-based coding, there's a couple loops that we have here. So we have basic sections here. This is going to happen once the MicroBit receives power. So let's just put something in here. Let's grab where it says you can either do show string or show icon. I'm going to do show icon, and we can pick a little picture on here that you can create. So I'm going to pick my little, this looks like a Pac-Man ghost. Why not? So once I give power to this, and it'll automatically show this. Now, every time that you make a change, it won't do this automatically if you have it plugged in. You're probably looking at your MicroBit and saying, nope, it doesn't look like that right now, because we need to send the code to it. But let's build the code first. But it's not going to actually show up on the MicroBit until you download it to the MicroBit. We'll get there. We are going to grab under the pink menu where it says on pin pressed. Now we have, you know what, let's have some fun with this. Let's grab this one here. On button A pressed. I wasn't planning on doing this, but this will be fun. Okay, so on button A press, you notice how this one kind of shaded out? Because we can't have two things happening when we press the A button. Let's make this B, and then it'll come back. There it goes. So these A and the B, what they're talking about
on your actual microbit, there are 2 little buttons. Okay, let's just make these change. So let's do, let's see, I'm going to do I'll do a happy face when I push A, and I'm going to do a icon. Let's do a frowny face. There we go. When I push B. Okay, so it's loading. Now, once we download it, not doing it yet, but you can practice on the actual screen here. You can actually click these buttons on the screen. So it's going to be smiley face, frowny face. Not going to work on your microbit just yet because we need to code it. We typically, in coding, a lot of people use, and there's a lot of reasons why you would use a forever loop. We are not going to be using the forever loop, so let's grab this and drag it over here to the trash can and pitch it. In fact, we're going to go back to this input menu, and we're going to say when a pin is pressed. Okay, so we need to change this pin to pin 1. Pin 1 is where the button is wired in on your breadboard. So we have our button wired into pin 1. So when we push the actual physical button on the breadboard, it's going to recognize that as pin 1. And just so you understand what's happening, we have our breadboard we have wired up. You can see on the breadboard where it says P0, P1, and so on. But just so we're aware of what that happens, is the purpose for that extension is to take all of these pins. If you look at my screen here and watch, if I hover over these little things here, so this is pin 7. That's pin 1, obviously. Pin 8, pin 9, right? So what's happening is we are able to connect basically jumper wires and attachments to the bottom of the microbit by using the board that we're connecting to our breadboards. That's pretty slick. So when we press button 1, what I want to have happen is, let's go to green, and we're not doing a forever loop. Let's grab a repeat loop, and let's make it 4 times. And then what we're going to do is I need to write. So this is a read. It's called a digital read. We need to write to make our LED and our buzzer, I guess, flash or blink on and off. Here's how we do that. Under this advanced menu, we go down to where it says pins. And I'm going to do a digital write. Let me drag this over so we can see a little better. And what I want to do is I want to tell let's see, P0 is my buzzer, and P2 would be my light. So P0, I want to tell it to turn on, and it's a digital value. It's either on or off. On is a 1, 0 is a off. I can go over here and I can continue to drag these out, but let me show you something. I mean, I'm already here. It'd be easier, but let me show you something that's going to be helpful. If I right click and I just hit duplicate over here, it's quicker. So this needs to be P2. So 0, once again, is our buzzer, and P1 is our LED. So we're telling it, turn both of these on 4 times. We want it to flash, so we need to tell it to turn off. Otherwise, it's going to stay on. I'm going to go back to basic. I'm going to try it again. There it is. Grab a pause block. I'm going to put that here. And let's change this to half a second. Okay. So now they're both on. They're going to stay on until we tell them to turn off. So let's duplicate this. Bring it down here. Duplicate the other one. So we duplicated the P0 and the P2 block, and I'm going to duplicate the pause block. The pause block is going to be very important down here. That's something that often gets forgotten. So let's make this off. 0, off, 0. If we don't put this pause here, let's say we take this out, it's always going to be on. And here's why. It'll go through this, it'll say turn it on. It's going to wait 5 seconds, so it's going to be, half of a second. That's 500 milliseconds is half of a second. It's going to turn on, it's going to wait half of a second before it turns off. but it's not going to turn off for any period of time. In fact, it's just going to jump right back to the top. There's no time for it to be off before it jumps to the top. So make sure you put that bottom one in here. Let's send this code to our MicroBit. So if this is your first time doing it, mine might look a little bit different. So you're going to have to walk through this, and I'll try to remember how to do this. But if I hit download here, it's going to say attach to your computer. I'm going to hit next. I need to hit pair, and it's going to ask me, where's your MicroBit? And you say, yep, it's this guy right here, and hit connect. Now, we're not done yet. Oh, it can't connect. Why can't you connect? I don't know what's happening. Hang on one second. On yours, continue this process here. I'm going to unplug it and plug it back in. Let's see here. Let's try it. Oh, okay, yeah. I just unplugged it and plugged it back in. So if you do get that error, it will read. So once I have paired it, like I did in those steps, if I hit download, once I hit download, your screen will probably go black or flash your LEDs. Now I have on my screen, I have this little Pac-Man ghost. And if I push this button here on my screen, or on my MicroBit I mean, it gives me a smiley face. If I push the button on my actual MicroBit with my finger, it'll give me frowny face. And let's give it a shot. I'm going to push, you're not going to be able to see it, but you can hear it. I'm going to push the button on my MicroBit. Sounds like a truck is backing up. It flashed 4 times. You don't need to hold it. When you push this, just for a second, it's going to do this loop 4 times. It also should flash your LED. So make sure that your LED is flashing at the same time as your buzzer. And yeah, make sure when you push the button, I'm assuming you guys can hear that, that it's going to loop 4 times. Once you have done that and it is working properly, I would like for you to, actually let's upload 2 pictures today. I want you to upload this as a screenshot or a picture with your iPad, and I want you to also take a picture of your wiring. So 2 pictures, take a picture of your wiring, and what you have on the screen here, that's your exit ticket for today. Congratulations, you have coded your first MicroBit project.